It's 20 questions on almost 20 years ago with a whole episode about the year 1999 with my oldest friend, filmmaker Steve Nelson. This is Trivia with Buds. Welcome to another episode of the Trivia with Buds podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Budds. As you can tell, I have what they call a frog in the throat. But we are on episode 99 of this twice-a-week pop culture trivia show. And boy, do we have a big announcement next week on the 100th episode. Something fun planned for that and some cool news. So sit tight for next Tuesday. This show comes out every Tuesday and Thursday in the full episode form and the mini episode form, which is usually 15 questions on one topic. Sometimes the full-length episode is a longer amount of questions, like last week's 50 questions on the 80s. I thought it would be fun this week to do some 1999 trivia for our big 99th episode. So I called up one of my oldest friends. We grew up on the same block. His name's Steve Nelson, and he lives in Austin, Texas. I met him in first grade, and we have a real fun chat on this episode. It's very long-winded, and a lot of nostalgia is brought up. So if you're looking for a chatty episode, this is a good one to kill some time in your car. We do some 99 trivia, about 20 questions, and we shoot the breeze about times of old. Had a great Father's Day this past weekend. Got an inflatable pool with a slide for the kids in the backyard, so had some beers in there. That was a lot of fun. Got some meat thermometers, which sounds like some kind of innuendo, but it's actual thermometers to see if your steaks are cooked when you're grilling. I'm always grilling out there. I'm such a dad, you know. And I got two board games. One's called Kill Dr. Lucky, and it's kind of like Reverse Clue. You're trying to kill this guy before everybody else does at a mansion. And then I got Donner Dinner Party, both from my wife and the family. That one's like a Guess Who the Cannibal type party card game. So should be fun to check both of those out. I'm very excited to check those out. Also got myself for Father's Day the WWE Mattel Retro Ring, which is based on the old Hasbro ring, which was the first present I remember getting at my 5th birthday in 1990. When I started my wrestling action figure collection habit. So, yeah, had a great Father's Day. Hope you did too. And we put out a special Father's Day episode on Sunday if you want to do some specific dad trivia. I'm excited to see Incredibles 2 this week with my kid. So if you've seen that, let me know what you think of Incredibles 2 in a tweet at ryanbudds, RYANBUDDS. Also, I'd love to know what you think the big announcement is. What do you think? What is your guess? What do you think we're going to be talking about on episode 100 that'll make this show bigger and better for everybody? Coming your way. Well, we got Steve Nelson, my oldest friend, and some fun stuff about growing up on 138th Street in Crestwood, Illinois. And we got 20 questions on 1999. We're going to dive into those right now. Here we go. Sitting here in the comfort of my own home in Laverne, California, and I have one of my oldest friends in the world, one of my bestest pals growing up in Crestwood, Illinois, Mr. Steve Nelson. What's up, Steve?
Hey, how's it going, man?
How you doing, buddy? What are you doing down in Austin, Texas on a nice Monday night?
The usual, just hanging out with the cats, looking up stuff on Wikipedia.
Yeah, you and I haven't talked in a week or two on the phone, but my voice, I sound like, I don't know, some kind of character I'm doing.
Some sort of crypt keeper,
yeah,
possibly.
It's very scratchy. I think I have some allergies or some kind of cold from the kids, because both kids have it. And they sleep on my face most of the night. They literally climb into bed, and my daughter's favorite thing to do is just kick me in the neck at all. She does the curly shuffle like you used to do. When you would get real hyper, but she does that like in her sleep nonstop. So it's like the hands of a clock hitting you in the chin every 10 minutes.
I did the curly shuffle at my brother's wedding.
Yeah. That's the story. The Curly Shuffle. We used to watch a lot of Three Stooges at.
Some would argue too much.
Too much Three Stooges. Your dad had a lot of the VHSs where it would be like this Three Stooges golfing bonanza.
Yeah, one time in the 90s, I was like shopping for my dad for Christmas, and I saw this VHS pack of Three Stooges movies, and I was like, oh, perfect. This is what everyone wants, is a pack of VHS Three Stooges movies.
And you gave them one a year for 12 years.
I probably still could. They're all still in the packaging.
You never opened them? No time.
It's right next to Field of Dreams on VHS in its original packaging.
I remember your dad went to rent a video for your mom called The Jazz Singer, which is a really old movie. I think it's like one of the first movies.
I think that was the first movie with sound.
That's it. That's the first movie with sound. And for whatever reason, your mom and dad were talking about it. And then like your dad went and rented it from a Blockbuster like in Oak Lawn or somewhere further than we lived. And he brought it home and he was so excited to surprise your mom. And your mom was just mad that he opened like a new Blockbuster account. Like she was just like, Dave, you didn't need to do that. And like he was like, but I got the movie you wanted. And she's like, she did not appreciate the movie.
That sounds pretty accurate. I think he did something like that last week.
Oh my God. Your parents still live in Crestwood, Illinois, where we both grew up on 138th Street. And
That's the 138.
The 138 straight out of Seawood, which was a lyric to a song in your band Explicit Content from high school. And what was that? Was it just called Seawood? Was that the name of the song?
Yeah, Seawood. It was a rap rock song because, Limp Bizkit was so popular. You
had to do it. That's all. That was all the bands back then. It was just rapping and rocking. I was just at my house. My mom sold the house that we grew up in, so it's weird to think I've been there for the last time, even though I don't really know anybody that lives in Crestwood besides your parents. Still, everybody I know that we grew up with has moved to their own houses further away from that suburb or into the city and different things like that.
Yeah, and it just gets more and more strange the more you go back there.
Yeah, it just when you live somewhere else, it doesn't feel like home anymore. My sister still lives in Illinois, so I think she is a little bit more connected to the idea of that area being, like, our house. And I'm like, yeah, but I haven't lived in that house for 5 years at all.
Yeah.
Plus, it's an old ass house. Like we sold the house. The house was literally like on fire when we sold it, and somebody bought it, and now they live in it, and we don't have to worry about it. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I had that feeling after living in Austin for a few years, where I started calling my Austin home home. Yeah.
I was doing that like a weekend out here in California. It was just like the weather alone. I was like, this is it. This is the new home. So we grew up in Crestwood. You are like probably my most creative friend. You and I were always kind of on the same creative wavelength growing up in, 85 and 86 to now, but especially that 14 years going into the new millennium. I feel like you and I were doing a lot of like short story writing, songwriting, parody writing, comic doodling, but like none of it very good, but we were doing a lot of it.
Well, we were doing all sorts of stuff. We had like our own little funny radio shows, little newspapers, things. We would just do things to make each other laugh, really.
I feel like that was the goal, and still is a goal to a degree. To literally, I'm like, how do I make my friends laugh? And then like, I did that so much, and it was so addicting, especially for you and like our other friend Steve Scapperdine, wedding photographer extraordinaire now in Chicago. But I feel like I was like, if I can make those two laugh, then like I've won. And then like every stand-up show or like comedy show I've done since then, it's just like, how do I make my friends laugh? Oh, my friends just happen to be this crowd in Orlando tonight or whatever,
So you would just see the ghost of me in the crowd.
Yeah.
That's who you would perform for.
Yeah, you and the ghosts from Casper, Stinky, and the fat one, Fatso, and the other one.
Was Devon Sawa one of them? Probably.
Devon Sawa was, yeah. I actually watched that movie in a hotel room the other night, all the way up until I'm like, oh man, he's going to turn into Devon Sawa. And then I fell asleep and woke up. He was already back to Casper. I was like, God damn it.
Well, did you miss the best part, which was Dan Aykroyd's cameo as a Ghostbuster?
Oh, I do remember that. There are a lot of weird cameos in that movie. I feel like a lot of random people show up. There's some kind of rabbi character from SNL or SCTV. I can't think of, a reverend or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? And he shows up to like bless the house.
Is it also Dan Aykroyd?
It's probably Dan Aykroyd doing it. Yeah, he was there was the Conehead cameo.
He did all the ghosts.
Yeah, he's the dad, the guy from Tommy Boy. He showed up, just did that voice like a Chicago, Milwaukee guy. It was great. So we made a lot of stuff. We used to write short stories at another friend's house, like to go to sleep, and we would just read them over and over again, hoping that we would dream what we wrote down. Do you remember doing that?
Wow. I don't even remember. Now that you're saying that,
yeah,
I remember that.
Like we used to we all had like a spiral notebook, and we would like write stories to try and make each other laugh, but we would also write stuff like, man, wouldn't it be cool if you had like flying shoes or whatever? And so we'd write that into the story, and then like we'd individually read our stories over and over again, hoping that we would dream about the flying shoes, which was crazy, and we probably never did.
You had the flying shoes. I was just writing about Britney Spears.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hoping and dreaming.
Our comedy back then was real. Like, I don't even know. Would you even call it comedy? It was just like...
I wouldn't call what I do now comedy.
It was just like noises and like the most vague ideas, I feel like.
Well, I thought we always had a good balance because you were kind of like the comedy guy in a way. Like, I got a lot of that influence from you. You would show me a lot of like stand-up comedians or sketches. You seem to always be ahead of the curve with comedy stuff. Like, you were showing me like Mr. Show, like before it became a cult thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was harder when it was like, I mean, there was the internet and message boards and chat rooms and things, but you didn't, I feel like it was harder to get news at all, like on cool stuff. I remember you reading about Donnie Darko, I think on JoeBlow.com. In like 2001, and you're like, we got to find this movie, and like we really had to like find it because it wasn't like a mainstream movie.
That it's crazy to think that feels so long ago. Yeah, like I tried to track down Donnie Darko for the longest time, and I kept getting frustrated because I kept finding that movie Donnie Brasco,
yeah,
where they think like Al Pacino or something,
and Johnny Depp. Oh wow, yeah,
and like I was like trying to track down the DVD. I finally did, and I watched it like 3 times in a row. Yeah, that was probably 2 times too many. But
yeah. We used to watch it all the time.
That movie changed my life.
Yeah, that really. I felt like that was the movie where you really got interested in film. Was that where you would go like, okay, I think I can make something like this, or I could like create a story like this? Was that the movie?
Man, like, well, just throughout the 90s. I was always into movies, and like those are some of my earliest memories are movies.
Yeah, your parents used to take us to the drive-in. I remember we saw Apollo 13 and Congo in '95.
Oh, wow!
And I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to see Congo." And then like I think we watched like the opening scene, and we're like, "All right, we're going home." And I was like, "Oh." And Apollo 13 to me at the time was so boring because I'm like, they're just sitting in space. Come on,
we already know the ending. Damn it!
Yeah.
Yeah, my earliest memory is seeing Arachnophobia at the drive-in when I was 4 years old. I can still remember seeing the spiders, and it just freaking me out.
Sure. That's a great that's a great drive-in movie. That's 1990. That's like the perfect mix of a time to just remember.
I just saw James Wan is doing a remake
of. Oh yeah, I think I saw that. Was he the original director?
Oh no, he's like.
Oh no, James Wan's the modern guy who did It. Did he do It?
No, he did. He did Saw and I think Conjuring and Furious 7.
Oh yes, that's right.
Aquaman.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. And he wants to do a remake of Arachnophobia.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, me and you were shooting shorts all through the 90s. I just felt like anytime a school project was like, write a bunch of boring stuff, I would always ask the teacher, like, hey, can we just like shoot something funny, kind of related? Yeah. Oh, and they would always be like, sure, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. They would probably like think about if you were a teacher and you're like, I got to read all this crap, and then somebody's like, can I give you a video? When nobody does that, you're like, yeah, I'll watch your video if I don't have to read another goddamn thing. But yeah, what did we do? We had a Great Gatsby unit. Was that what it was? And we made a Gatsby. We had to interview a character from a book. Right? And then so we set up the camera and I interviewed Jay Gatsby and you were Jay Gatsby, right?
Yeah, I was Gatsby doing a terrible accent.
The accent was an accident.
And I think I had a mustache that was drawn on with like permanent marker.
And like a weird sport coat, and you walked in with a boombox, but this was like 2003 where none of that was cool. And you were supposed to be a 1920s literary character. And we just taped that. And then I asked you a few questions, and we cut it real funny where you just were in different positions every time we came back from the question. And we played that in front of the class. Everybody laughed. The teacher's like, I don't get it. A+. Or we'd get at least a B. Well, this was something.
We would basically just like scan the text, for like key phrases and names. Yeah. And then just throw them into the jokes and hope that it made sense.
Yeah, we had one where one of the jokes in that was you you picked up a candle, and I said, what's the scent on that candle? And you said dingleberry. And then from there it went to a quick cut of you going, "What's the next question?" in a different position, and like it had nothing to do with The Great Gatsby, and everybody loved it.
So that's what we're doing then. That's our next project.
I've been doing that for 15 more years. It's crazy, but yeah, we should turn the Gatsby Hour into a live stream show. Where you're the host is a bizarro Jay Gatsby, and we just interview James Wan.
That sounds like a very specific audience.
Oh yeah. The audience is
my mother.
Yeah, me, you, and maybe your older brother. Well, awesome, man. We were bebopping and scotting all around that decade, and since this is episode 99 of the show, I thought it'd be fun to call my oldest friend from that era, which is you, and BS about those times, what was going on in pop culture and history, and kind of do some trivia back and forth. So we'll do 20 questions, and you'll be up first. I'll be up first. I'll ask the first question. We'll see if you get it, and then we'll go on to one of your questions. We'll just do that back and forth and interject with stories and hot anecdotes.
That sounds amazing.
Very good. All right. I should probably tell the listener that it's 12:30 Pacific time, and that means it's 2:30 a.m. your time, right?
Oh yeah, baby, I'm ready for this.
All right, very good. All right, so I'll kick things off. How do you feel about trivia around this era? Do you feel pretty smart?
I'm pretty terrible with trivia just in general.
You were the salutatorian of our 8th grade class, which was that year, 99 going into 2000.
Oh, everything I have ever done is a fluke. I'm pretty sure I just have amazing short-term memorization ability.
Yeah.
Instantly forget everything though.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. All right, here's question number 1. Let's see if you know this one. What ex-pro wrestler became governor of Minnesota in 1999? This guy's...
Is Jesse Ventura?
Yeah, Jesse the Body Ventura. He's kind of a nut. He's like a conspiracy theory nut now. But you got it, Jesse the Body Ventura. Now you watched wrestling growing up a little bit, not as much as I did, right?
Yeah, like I think I always wanted to get more into it, but I just kind of faked my way through it and just kind of like wore the shirts.
Yeah. Well, you got everybody was really into it from our 6th to 8th grade. That's when it was red hot with Stone Cold and The Rock and everything with the Attitude Era. And the two promotions, WCW and WWE, go back and forth. But yeah, I remember I was really into, and still am, wrestling action figures. And I remember you kind of just going like, yeah, I'll get some of those. like I'll jump in that short.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would sit there and fight the guys, and I had no idea who they were. Yeah. Like you would have to point out like, oh, these hillbilly characters are terrible. Nobody likes them. Why are you playing with them?
And you're like, they came with a slop bucket.
Yeah, and the only reason I even knew the Jesse Ventura thing was because of Predator.
There you go. See, it helps to know a little bit about everything. All right, so you got it. You're 1 for 10 so far. 1 for 1, I guess. What's your first question?
Quit here.
Yeah, we'll just call it quits.
100%. All right, I got one for you here.
Yes.
All right. This athlete died in 1999 after falling from the rafters during a pay-per-view event.
Oh no, that was 99, huh? I thought that was a couple years earlier. That would be the Rocket, Owen Hart, R.I.P.
Man, it's all 1990s wrestling trivia today, I guess.
I hope so. That's weird that we both started with a wrestling one. Also, one becomes a governor and one dies. That's pretty weird juxtaposition there. We'll jump into question number 2. This might be a little more lighthearted. Number 2, Jim Carrey won the Golden Globe for what? Best Actor Drama, or Best Actor in a Dramatic Motion Picture for what movie in 1999? Jim Carrey, Golden Globe, Best Actor in a Drama, 99. What movie do you think it was for?
Oh, man. I don't know if it was The Truman Show, but I'm going to go with Man in the Moon.
I'm going to pretend you just said Truman Show, because that was the answer.
That's exactly what I said. If you
there you go. Yeah, I'll just cut out the other part where you said Man in the Moon.
What was that? I had a 50-50 shot there.
Yeah, there you go. 99. Those were the only two, huh? When was The Majestic? I would have maybe thrown that in there. Not that I think remember? Not that he would win anything, because I don't think anyone liked that movie, but
I think he had one of the best years for an actor in 94.
Yeah.
What was it? It was Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
In 1 year.
And I think that was what's crazy. I think that's the Tom Hanks year, because I think that's when Forrest Gump, maybe it was 95. I don't remember. You remember Tom Hanks had a crazy year? He was nominated. He won back-to-back Best Oscar for Forrest Gump and Philadelphia, which was crazy. And some of
that sounds accurate.
Yeah, and some of his biggest movies just came out like one after the other, which is nuts.
I'll say that The Mask was the first film I ever had to walk out of.
Really?
I drank too much icy, and my 8-year-old self couldn't handle it.
Oh, you mean you had to like leave without? You had to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I had to run out. I missed the ending, and I vowed to myself since that day, like, I'll never walk out of a movie. I'll never miss a part of a movie, and I never have since. I've never walked out of a movie.
Really?
And I still have no idea how The Mask ends.
That's awesome. You've never watched the ending?
I know there's a sequel. There's a son.
Sure. Son of the Mask is the direct sequel. It starts the same day. And here's
man.
Question number 2 on your side. What do you got?
Oh, man. Let's go with this bad boy. Which famous author was nearly killed after being struck by a minivan while walking next to a road in Maine?
That would be Jay Gatsby. Next question. The Gatsby Hour taught me that one. I definitely know that this is Stephen King because of the 2 references of Maine. And I remember the van incident because my mom bought me a book called Stephen King on Writing, which he put out when he was injured from this accident.
Yeah, I hear that's one of the best books on writing, I guess.
Yeah, I own it. I think I have it somewhere in my house. And she bought it for me then, where I was like way too much of a punk kid to be like, I should read this manual. You know what I mean? I was like, I can't concentrate on this. So I put it to the side. But I have it somewhere, and it's supposed to be great.
Wasn't there a period where you were kind of into Stephen King? Wasn't there a book like... I thought there were a few books you got into.
Yeah, I don't remember when that was. That must have been... I mean, the only Stephen King book I've read, like, beginning to end real quick was Misery. And I was like, oh, this is such a good book. Like, I loved it. I probably got that year, maybe in high school, senior year, something like that.
I know there was one book where, like, isn't there a girl obsessed with somebody?
Oh, yeah. The girl who loved Tom Gordon. Yeah, the girl who loved Tom Gordon. And I did have that book, and that was another one I just never read. Like, I had it on my shelf. It was prominent when you walked in my bedroom. That's probably why you remember it. But I never read it.
So all the books and movies and stuff that we own is actually a lie. We've never actually experienced any of it.
Yeah. Well, you used to experience shit really quick. We would go like on New Goosebumps Day, which was a good day.
That was an official holiday for us.
Those were coming out like once a month. So it'd be like, you go to Target and you'd be like, oh, they got the new number 14 or number 24 or whatever. And I remember it was cool because we all kind of like, your brother was older, so he had already, dived in a little bit. And then like, so he was later in this series, but we were catching up. And I remember buying number 19, I think it was, Deep Trouble, or maybe you bought that one and you read it like in 2 hours after we got it. and we were sitting in your room, and I was on chapter like 5, and you're like, done? And I was like, oh.
There wasn't even the hammerhead shark in that book, I don't think.
Yeah, they had a hammerhead.
Right on the cover.
Right on the cover, it was like, look out for this hammerhead shark. And then it was about a killer fish or something. It had nothing to do with it. It was wild. But yeah, you were a fast reader. That probably goes back to what you were saying about, like you remember everything so quickly. I think you process things really quick.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much anymore. We're moving on to question number 3, right? Or did you do number 2? Yeah, you did number 2. Question number 3 on my side. Death Has a Shadow was the first episode to what long-running TV show that started January 31st, 1999? Death Has a Shadow, name of the episode, the pilot.
Death Has a Shadow, 99?
Yeah.
Oh, man. For some reason, I want to say Futurama.
That's a great guess, and that show did start 99, but the pilot was not called Death Has a Shadow. Any more guesses?
99. So much of this year is blank in my mind.
This was a favorite of ours at the time because there was nothing really like it in terms of the style.
It wasn't it wasn't Erie, Indiana, was it?
No, it was Family Guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So yeah, first episode of Family Guy, and I remember us getting hooked on it just because it was just like so quick, and then like the jokes seemed to be like so much crasser than The Simpsons.
I swear, I remember seeing that like the premiere episode, and I swear we called each other or something,
and we're like, "Did you see that?" Like
because we were just in tears. It was like the funniest thing we had ever seen.
Yeah. I remember when those came out on DVD, that was a huge reason why it got brought back as a series, because people were like, oh my God, I could finally watch that whenever I want, Yeah. And I remember buying them with my high school girlfriend, and like we just watched them for like weeks. It was wild. Question number 3 on your side.
Oh, let's see. I need to find one that's not about people dying.
Those were the headlines.
Here, I'll give you a real simple one.
Okay.
Who was the president of the United States in 1999?
It was his last year as president from 92 to 2000. Bill Clinton.
Mr. Bill Clinton.
There you go.
Wasn't he one of like your many characters at some point? I'm pretty sure he used to do an impression of him a lot. That's
on one of those radio shows we used to do. Well, our radio shows didn't make any sense because it was like we would just pick a celebrity and we would say that person, it was their show. And then we would just do a bunch of characters. And we recorded it on one of those Play School tape recorders that had a microphone with a small cord. So we had to just like walk around with this kid's toy. But that was our podcasting back then.
Yeah, like basically what Kevin McAllister had in Home Alone 2.
Yeah, like a talk boy
or whatever.
Yeah, and we would
podcasting.
We got obsessed for some reason with the Keenan Ivory Wayne show, which was a short-lived 1-season show on Fox. And we liked In Living Color and sketch shows, so we were like, oh, like, this will be a great talk show. And it really was, I think it was just a real basic talk show. But we decided to call our show the Keenan Ivory Wayne Show. And I was Keenan Ivory Wayne's, but there was no impression. It wasn't like I was from the Waynes family. It was like, hey, I'm Keenan Ivory Wayne's. And
we for some reason, we are obsessed with the comedy of the Wayans brothers.
Yeah, we love. Scary Movie hadn't even. I guess Scary Movie had come out, the first one.
Yeah, I think the first one came out in 99, 2000, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and then we had the Mike Tyson show. It was just a high pitched. Both of us would do a high pitched voice, and that was supposed to be Mike Tyson, and he had a talk show.
I don't even think we had to change our voices for that one.
Yeah, it was just pre-pubescent voice.
All the guests were just me and you. Either impersonating celebrities or just pretending to be people from school. And then
we do, people from school that would just, the only we would know. And then we would do fake ads and things like that. I wish we had those. I don't really wish we had them because they're probably god awful. And
that's either blackmail or just a mistake waiting to be exposed.
Question number 3. What do you got?
Is it me again?
Yeah. Oh wait, no. You said you did the Bill Clinton one, and then we talked about Keenan Ivory Wayne's. Number 10, 10 things I hate about. Or sorry, number 4, 10 things I hate about you. Came out in 1999 based on what Shakespeare play was that story based on? 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, man. Is this going to be another swing and a miss for me? I mean, was it Macbeth? Is it Macbeth?
It is not Macbeth. A little bit longer title.
Shakespeare's Macbeth?
Yeah, Shakespeare's Super Macbeth. It was The Taming of the Shrew.
Oh, okay.
Taming of the Shrew. That's Shakespeare, right? I hope I didn't. What if it's not Shakespeare? That's got to be Shakespeare.
Right.
Mark Twain's The Taming of the Shrew.
For some reason, I had in my head, no one even remembers this. There was a film in I think like 2001 maybe, called O.
Yeah, oh yeah. With Othello.
Othello, yeah. That's the one I had in my head.
Yeah, I think you had to do a paper on it or watch it or something. Or was it you were dating a girl and it was her favorite movie? Was that the... Or no, was that our friend Ron? Somebody was dating somebody that loved O.
There was a part we used to laugh at where I think he's like, I think she's sleeping with somebody and then she looks like in the mirror and it's actually someone else.
Yep, I definitely remember that.
But there's certain movies like I forgot I went and saw that in theaters.
Yeah,
or,
I saw Battlefield Earth in theaters. Why? Why would anyone do that? And I remember walking out going like, that was pretty good. Like dumbass 13-year-old kids.
John Travolta in a wig and glasses was like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I'm going to go buy more tickets. He went theater to theater in disguise.
I think like there's certain movies, yeah, like I took a date to see, I think it was called Drive Me Crazy.
Yeah. Melissa Joan Hart and the guy from Entourage.
Yeah, and it was something like they end up falling for each other, but then like their parents get married, so they're going to be step siblings, but they're in love. Sure,
which is now a very popular channel on most porn websites.
Yeah, I Google that a lot.
Well, it just comes up. It's like, oh, were you looking for regular porn? Here's some crazy porn, and you're like, okay.
Let's see. Is it? Am I up here?
What?
Am I up next?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're up next.
Man. I'm just looking through this list of terrible questions I've come up with.
Give me your best Clinton.
I just realized I don't have any about video games, which is a little sad.
Ooh, I my number 10's about video games. I think you're going to like it.
All right. How about this one? Which James Bond movie, released in 1999, featured Denise Richards as nuclear physicist Christmas Jones?
She's a nuclear physicist in that movie?
I can give you a list if you want, or you can just guess it.
Well, I know it's one of two. I think it's got to be The World Is Not Enough, or it's got to be Tomorrow Never Dies. But I think Tomorrow Never Dies was 90. GoldenEye was 96. Tomorrow Never Dies, I think, was 98. So I guess World Is Not Enough would be 99. Am I right?
And that's the correct answer.
Yeah, and then it was Die Another Day in like 02.
Song
yeah. And then at the end
Garbage.
Oh yeah, and at the end he goes like, "I thought Christmas only comes once a year." And she was like, "Oh dear."
Literally the only reason she's named Christmas.
For one orgasm line.
But those are, I always get those two movies, Tomorrow Never Dies, World's Not Enough, mixed up because they came out within a few years, and I think at the time, like, those were the only James Bond movies I had even seen.
Yeah. GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, World's Not Enough, and Die Another Day was the Pierce Brosnan 4-block, and they're all like pretty similar movies.
I saw Daniel Craig's making another one.
Yeah, that'll be his fourth, right?
I think it's fifth because the last one, Spectre, was pretty terrible.
Oh yeah, Spectre, Skyfall, Quantum of Solace, Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will be his fifth. That'll be crazy. Question number 5. Which Harry Potter book came out in 1999?
You know how many people are like screaming at me right now?
They're going to be mad. Well, I'll tell you, it's probably a few hundred at the most. But yeah,
including John Travolta in a wig and glasses.
Oh yeah, he listens in different disguises too, just to be extra safe. Have you seen that movie that Fred Durst directed that he's in, where he plays a super fan? That's all a disguise for the podcast.
I can't wait.
Did you see that screenshot? He looks insane.
Yeah, that was just behind the scenes. He was just going to his trailer.
Can you imagine getting that call? It's like, yo, Travolta. It's your favorite motherfucker. Like he still talks like he rocked.
He talks in rap rock.
Yeah.
He actually, I've only seen one movie that he's directed, Fred Durst. But it was actually pretty good. It was what was it called?
Was it the movie with Jesse Eisenberg where it was like The Truth About Robert or something like that, like a name? Or like
there's The Education of Charlie Banks.
Is that it? Yeah, that might be it. It's him and like John Ritter's son. And I remember I watched it, and at the end it said directed by Fred Durst. I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
What is the error? You might be thinking of The Long Shots. Was that the movie?
Possibly. I don't remember.
With Ice Cube? Long Shots with Ice Cube? I feel like he directed that.
Yeah, he did.
And Keke Palmer, friend of, I was going to say friend of the show. She hasn't been on. But Keke Palmer, friend of mine.
I cheated a little. I brought up some IMDb to check on Fred Durst's career.
How's it going?
I'll have you know that one of his listed credits is for the Fred Durst sex tape.
He had to add that. Who would add?
Actually on IMDb.
He had to add that himself.
So what was the question again?
Here, I'll read it to you again in rap rock. Which Harry Potter book came out in '99?
Oh my god! You should have been the lead singer for my band.
We're going to turn this podcast into the Fred Durst show, just like our old character days.
I'll have the audience know you actually were the lead singer for our band.
Period. For when you say brief period, the recording of one song on a Talk Boy.
Yeah, we recorded it so we could show it to people to try to get a show. I think it was it an Adam song by Blink-182?
Blink-182, Adam song. That would have been like exactly 2000, 2001. And I remember recording it like holding in my mouth up to the microphone on someone's stereo in like I think Mike Brady's room, and just screaming at the top of my lungs the lyrics. And it was so bad. I love the idea that we're like, all I got to do is record a demo and we'll start getting gigs.
Oh yeah, that's a tape I'd like to find. I can't believe that the big venues didn't book us based on that one cassette recording of a Blink-182 song.
None of it matches up. It's hilarious.
That's not how the world works.
Nope. Question number 5, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, I came into this kind of late. Like, I've seen all the movies, but I remember thinking, even in 99, I was like 13, and I remember thinking like, oh, Harry Potter, like, that's for kids.
Yeah. They didn't come full circle for me until 10 years later.
So I'm going to guess Chamber of Secrets. Is that even a thing?
That is number 2, Chamber of Secrets, I think. Yeah. Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, and then this one, The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is your favorite movie of those movies. I think
possibly.
I remember there's some time travel in that one. It's a lot of people's favorite.
Oh, the time travel one, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of people's favorite. What do you got over there for question number 5?
It's just all Harry Potter questions. Okay, name the band and their hit single that appeared in Mystery Men, Rat Race, and most notably Shrek.
All-Star Smash Mouth.
Yeah, you gotta.
But
that's just a '90s classic.
That is a great question and a great song. But the song, I think, maybe it is. Maybe in number 1 it's Shrek. Shrek 1 it's All-Star, but then they did the I'm a Believer cover for one of the Shrek movies. That might have been like 2 or 3 or something.
And I know the Mystery Men had like a music video with all the actors.
Yeah, and that's where we got to see Dane Cook as the Waffler for the first time ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, I'm the Waffler.
Yeah. And then they were in like the whole climactic finale of Rat Race.
Rat Race, one of my favorite movies, still holds up, I think, to this day. I watched it, I think, about 9 months ago, and I was still like, this is a fun movie. We saw that in theaters and loved it, and we would just rent it over and over again, I remember. But yeah, Smash Mouth was closing that movie out with a donation of all the money at the end.
You were, I think both of us, we were obsessed with Rowan Atkinson at the time, Mr. Bean.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Bean. I still remember when you told me, you're like, yeah, there's going to be a Mr. Bean movie. And I remember thinking like, oh, this fool. Like, he's like so silly thinking that like anyone would take the time to take this PBS character and like make a theatrical movie out of it. And the next month it was like Bean the movie and everybody was seeing it.
I think, did we see it for one of our birthdays? Like we gathered up some friends.
Yeah, I think it was my birthday, and my mom took us to Bremen, which was $1.25 for the movies, and like I don't know, 10 of us went and saw it, and then I remember rolling around the floor of the van with no real seats, which was crazy. We had like a moving van, and we would just pile in, and like there were no seats, seatbelts, nothing.
That's accurate to 90s kids safety, like just hop in the back of the station wagon, kids.
Yeah.
I remember though, like certain movie memories, like Bean, were just tears streaming down my face. Like there's a part in the movie where like he like accidentally cranks up this ride, and people like fly out of their seats. Yeah, and I remember just like we couldn't even talk. We were laughing so hard.
That and one of the hardest was there were two things. One of them was Scary Movie, when the sex scene, he ejaculates her to the ceiling and his body like sucks dry and it's just like a tidal wave. And we were like, that was that movie, right?
Yeah. Because I remember Scap had seen that with like his parents.
Yeah, on vacation. They went and saw it in the rain or something. And
I
he's
remember
like,
thinking at the time, like, that's the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone.
To have to watch that scene with your parents, yeah. That was the funniest thing I had seen in theater. Your brother worked at Sony Theaters, I think it was called at the time, before it was AMC. And he got us in because he was the projector. Because that was an R-rated movie that we weren't supposed to be able to see at the time.
Yeah.
And I think he snuck us in or something. That was really cool. And then the other funniest thing was, I think a year later, maybe 2001 or 2, when not another teen movie came out. And there was a scene where a guy was talking about like how poop jokes in the movies are crass and not funny. It was like an English teacher or something. Yeah. And meanwhile, like a toilet explodes into his mouth and just gushes diarrhea like for days. And I remember thinking that was the funniest thing. Both things involved gushing bodily fluids.
Our
favorite thing.
Well, like nowadays, like I've seen so many movies, and it gets harder and harder to remember like just individual movies or certain scenes. And so like I look back at stuff like that and I'm like, you know what? Like maybe that movie is worthwhile. Maybe it had something to it that I still remember this, years later. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you much else about either of those movies, but I do remember those scenes quite well. Number 5, you did number 5, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So number 6, here it is for you. What game show was the highest rated show of the 1999-2000 season? So this was the highest rated show that anybody watched, and it was a game show. Number 6.
I feel like I'm going to get this one, because at the time I remember thinking like, okay, this is an event. Like every episode was like, gather the family around. We're going to experience this together. Was it Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, it was. That's exactly what it was. And you're right. That was what we used to. I remember that was a huge deal. If you were at like somebody's house, like it was kind of like, I don't know. Does something exist like that right now? I feel like that HQ app did for a little bit, where people are like, oh, it's 5:15. I got to play HQ. But now that's kind of fizzling out. But yeah, that was a thing where my parents used to watch it in separate rooms and yell out the answers to each other, and it was like a big deal.
Well, like it's so crazy to think how much has changed in like 20 years, and I feel like that kind of event where everyone is in on it together and experiencing it together. That's more and more rare nowadays. It seems like everything is kind of like segmented. Like people will list like, oh, here's my 10 favorite shows, and I'm like, I haven't heard of any of these.
Yeah, because you have your favorite shows, and like they're not even on the same platform. You know what I mean? It's like there's just so many options now. There's no one thing that there's no water cooler like show anymore.
Yeah, it gets more and more rare. There's just so much content, and then like it gets more and more specific. Like when I looked up notable births, people that were born in 1999 to get ideas for the trivia, and I didn't recognize anybody. Yeah. And it was all like YouTube star, Instagram celebrity, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm old.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like we're not that old, but then it does. Sometimes I'm like, man, like you just said 20 years, and that was, there were still 10, 12 more on top of that.
Well, like, it's so weird. Like occasionally, like I'll ask like high schoolers or whatever. I'll just be like, so what is it like now? Like, yeah, like what is it like going to high school in 2018? And a lot of them are just like, well, it's pretty terrible because like anything you do is instantly online. Everyone's always judging you. You always know if someone doesn't like something you did, or if there was a party you weren't invited to, you find out immediately. Like, it just sounds brutal.
Yeah. It's a totally different experience. Yeah, everything is out there. And I mean, like, just the idea of like, like not if you were like, hey, meet me at this place, and then the person didn't show up, there was no way to like know or like communicate about it. You just like, oh, I guess they're not coming.
I think you and I probably both have experienced like where you were trying to go on a date or something, and it would be like, oh, you tell the person, yeah, meet me at the movie theater at 4:00, and then they like just wouldn't show, and you have no idea.
Sure. And like
have a ride back.
Yeah, and like nowadays there'd be like 20 ways you could contact the person. You're like, oh, like they didn't answer the text, I'll Snapchat them, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do that.
I used to have to, after this shows how cool I was. Like after like bowling practice, I would have to call my mom, and I would call collect, and when it gave you that 2 seconds to leave your name, I would just say, hey, Mom, come pick me up.
Yeah, and she would be like, I hope that's my son, and she would just go somewhere. There was no time to say the location, so you'd have to leave the Post-it note at home, like, I'm at the bowling alley. Question number 6, what do you got?
I got, name a horror movie widely considered to be the first film to go viral on the internet.
I think
1999 horror movie viral on the internet.
I think it's got to be the Blair Witch Project, because they were doing the stuff that people don't even like. When they do now, it's like, oh, what a good idea. And I'm like, they were doing it back then. Like production companies passing out missing posters of the people that were in the movie and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like found footage, it had been done before, but that was kind of like, the first huge breakthrough. And people like, I don't know if people realize it, but like at the time, people thought that was real.
Yeah.
Because this was before anything went viral on the internet. So it was like a new thing. So we had just heard these stories of like, oh, these people went missing. They're supposedly dead. Mm-hmm. Like they built up this whole mythology, and I remember getting obsessed about it. Like there was the sequel. There were video games. Like I remember watching videos of the video games, like at your house.
If you even to consume that stuff, you had to like find like a Napster thread, and like hopefully the video was good, and then you could only watch it in a little box. There was no way to like watch it anywhere else,
Yeah. Do you remember one night? I think Mancow, the shock jockey from Chicago.
Yeah.
He had like a Blair Witch parody like episode. Do you remember watching that?
Yeah, and they went to some haunted places in Chicago and like in the woods, right?
Yeah, and I swear, like we thought it was real, and there's a part where like I think you could see like red glowing eyes, and we were like, "That's it. There's the proof. It's all real."
That was like Mancow's like Halloween special, and it was Mancow TV. It was on Channel 10. And it was
I'm glad you still remember the channel.
WCIU channel, not channel, maybe channel 26, but it was like 10.
Same one with Spenguli?
Yes, yeah, same channel. And it was like live. It was basically like they would live stream and tape his radio show, and then they would do some act outs and stuff. But yeah, there was like a long one, like a Halloween special where he went to like Resurrection Cemetery, I think, and stuff like that.
You and I, we lived just a few blocks from like, a supposedly haunted cemetery, Bachelor's Grove.
Yeah, if you're listening and you like haunted stuff, just Google Bachelor's Grove, and it's in Illinois. You can find a bunch of cool pictures and stuff.
Or if you want to stalk my parents and see where they live, just Google Bachelor's Grove.
Nelson family?
Yeah, I remember just like around that time being obsessed with like ghosts and all the haunted stuff around Chicago. And I remember calling you up a few times, like late at night, being like, "Buds, there's a UFO in the sky. I'm 100% sure this is real." And then like 5 minutes later being like, "Oh, that's an airplane."
Yeah. I do remember you were kind of you were like watching the skies, and you would report to me on things that you found.
Well, because there was so much stuff I was obsessed with in the 90s that was horror related. I mean, that's like, I'm into horror movies and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like reading Goosebumps, watching like Unsolved Mysteries. There was oh man, I don't know if I want to bring this one up. There was that website, Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, it was like a writing forum, like a message board where you could post stories in different genres and poems and things. Yeah, and we would write stuff on there and get feedback, and everything I would write was just haunted stuff about Bachelor's Grove or Crestwood. Yeah, it was like a Tumblr or like a blog before that was a thing, really. And it was like you could just submit and get some feedback. And most of the feedback would be like me leaving a comment on yours, and and then like one other person that would be like basically like it, almost like a Facebook post. Creating a different fake account just to leave a second comment. Oh yeah, we're like that'll get them in there. That'll send them in droves. Question number 7. Let's see if you know this one. Number 7. What Batman animated series aired 1999 to 2001? Oh, please tell me this was Batman Beyond. It was, which you were hooked on. I think I watched the pilot with you, and then you kept watching it, and I think I just fell by the wayside. I cannot believe that there's not a movie based on that. Yeah. That show is so great. I just loved like the world that they built and just the style of it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. I think they're all on Hulu. The whole series. Honestly, like, yeah, I think that's like, so all the DC movies lately, they're all terrible and they're all dark and gritty. They don't know what they're doing. Like I feel like Batman Beyond would be the perfect movie that they could make to kind of like try to do what Marvel's doing. Yeah, yeah. It could totally be like a Spider-Man kind of movie where it's fun. Yeah. I'm just surprised they haven't done that yet. Yeah, I think it's coming. I think they'll definitely do something like that in the near future. What do you got for number 7? Let's do, what was the name of the TV series starring Lance Henriksen that featured a crossover in 1999 with Chris Carter's other popular show, The X-Files? So what was the name of the show starring Lance Henriksen that crossed over with X-Files? I think it's got to be Millennium. Yeah. I never watched it. You were a huge X-Files fan. I think I was secretly kind of scared of the X-Files, so I was like, I don't like it. You know what I mean? I'm going to watch wrestling. But well, that was one of the other spooky things in the 90s. Just hearing that music. Me and my brother would watch it while we were washing dishes, and every time that music came on, like fear would just hit me. You guys are always doing chores, and I was the youngest of 5, so like I never did a chore in my life. I feel like my parents were just like, get out of the house. There's too many bodies in the house. So like I would just go down to your house, and you'd be like, oh, I can't play till I do chores, and I'm like, poor guy, you know. But then you would get like, you know, like allowance, and it would go up if you did certain things. And you would your mom had like reward systems, like a calendar with like, if you get 7 stickers in a row, then you get a toy. And I'd be like, ooh, and you would get it, and you'd be like 14 stickers, 2 toys. You'd like cash it in. And I remember your mom, like on payday or something, she would like buy you like a Ronin Warriors figure. And I would be like, damn, Nelson's getting all these figures. And so I'd go home and I'd be like, Mom, you got to put up some stickers on a calendar. And she was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, she's like, I don't have time for that. I'm not, like, she's like, if you want a toy, like, go buy a toy. I'm not putting stickers up. And I was like, all right.
I'm glad you brought up Ronin Warriors. Like, I still have them. I'm actually looking at them right now. It's one of the few things I still have from childhood.
Wow,
but
you were hooked.
I remember, like, when we would go to the store, there would be literally, we would race each other to the toy aisle
to see who could get it.
Because there were certain Ronin Warriors that, like, I don't have this one, and the store never carries this one.
Yeah. And that was something like, there were a lot of things you would get really into, and then I would just kind of pretend I was into. And like you said, you kind of did it with wrestling, but like I feel like you were into a lot of different things, and there were so many things I couldn't even keep up. So like, I remember Ronin Warriors was a thing where I was like, well, I'll buy one, and then I just like would bust that one out and be like, yeah, Ronin Warriors, you know.
Meanwhile, I had him fighting the hillbillies from WWF.
Oh yeah, you were doing crossovers. It was great. Here's number 8. Mrs. Munger's class, the Monkey Boys, Tube Dwellers, and Manny the Uncanny were all short segments that aired in between series episodes of what block of TV programming? Mrs. Munger's class, the Monkey Boys, Tube Dwellers, and Manny the Uncanny. So these were like little short segments, kind of like on Pee Wee Herman when the claymation girl would teach you how to do something, like those kind of things.
Yeah,
so
Penny.
They'd be like bumpers to different series on what block of programming. You and your little sister, I feel like, watch this a lot.
Man, I honestly, none of those ring a bell except maybe Manny.
How about this? Those were all the segments. One of the series was called Pepper Ann.
Oh, was it One Saturday Morning?
That's right, One Saturday Morning, which existed, I think, since the early 80s. But Disney's One Saturday Morning started, like, I think, 97 to 2002. And that was, like, when they got the rights to Doug, and they made new Doug episodes. They made a Doug movie, I think.
Yeah, that's actually the theme song to that Doug.
Yeah.
The little whistle. That's how I call my cats in to the house.
That's awesome. And they all come back?
Yeah, they come.
How did they know? Did you teach it to them, or they were already fans?
Yeah, they just love the show,
They just love the show? They're all big fans of the beats?
I remember, I think you were there, that One Saturday Morning had like a big premiere.
Yeah.
And like, I remember thinking at the time, oh, it's One Saturday Morning. Like this is it. It's just the one time.
Yeah. You were like, we gotta tape it on 3 TVs.
So I don't know if you remember this, but like I remember, because either we couldn't watch it at my house or whatever. But I remember sneaking into Joe's backyard, the kid that lived across the street from me, and he was watching on the TV downstairs, and like I just sat in his backyard and watched it through his window because I couldn't at home.
Yeah, I remember you doing that and telling me about it, and I was like, yeah, "That's crazy."
Now I'm starting to understand why all the neighborhood parents thought I was a little off.
Breaking in, you're like, "What do you got on? What is that? Is that Millennium?" We're on question number 8.
All right. This one's going to be a hard one. Prince's breakthrough album, 1999, featured a hit single also named 1999. Which year was the album actually released?
Ooh.
I can give you a few years because that's kind of specific.
Okay, what are the choices?
Was it 1979, 1982, 1984, or 1989?
Definitely the 80s, I'd say. And I think it was probably 82, because 84 was when all the Purple Rain stuff was going on. And I don't think that I think those are 2 totally separate albums, like the Purple Rain movie album and this one. So I'm going to say 82.
You are a master of trivia.
This is my wheelhouse, I guess, because I'm usually not this good, especially you've had some really good questions. I feel like mine are pretty generic, but you got some deep cuts. Let's jump on to number 9. What Ricky Martin song, it was a single, sold 8 million copies in 1999. People were buying the single, which is crazy.
Man. Was that Livin' La Vida Loca?
It was. Do you remember his second big one? You did a parody of it.
Wait, was there Shake Your Bon Bon?
Shake Your Bon Bon, and your parody was?
Cinnabon Bon?
Cinnabon Bon.
It was about, cinnamon rolls in the mall.
I would almost say that his is a parody of yours. Like like a song called Cinnabon just sounds like a nice jingle, and then he's like Shake Your Bon Bon. Sounds like the Weird Al goofy version.
I knew he stole it from me.
You were obsessed with Weird Al. That was another thing on Saturday mornings. The Weird Al show, right? Wasn't that on ABC?
Yeah, I think so. It was kind of like Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, so you were into that, and we got to go see Weird Al live in 8th grade, or maybe, I think it was 8th grade. And your parents would do cool stuff like they would just buy tickets for all of us, and like we didn't, like my parents probably never even knew. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess they would. But it was like your parents would just buy the tickets. It wasn't like we had to like, oh, have your parents buy the tickets. They would just treat us for stuff like that.
Yeah, they're always pretty cool about that. And I remember just like you and Rob being obsessed with Weird Al, like Bad Hair Day, especially around then.
Right around then. And we got to go see him live, and it was a great show at the theater in Indiana. I've done stand-up there. The Star Plaza Theater. I think it was Maryville, Indiana.
I like how like every 5 years people are like, oh, he's back. Weird Al's back, guys. And it's like, no, he never left.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for 4 decades.
Yeah. He really knows how to kind of stay relevant, but not overly so, That's
like, he does it all, and like the fact that he can still stay current, and like, because I have no idea what's going on. Like I said, like YouTube stars and all this stuff, like I'm so out of my element. And somehow he's able to like keep up on that and still know what he's talking about. Yeah,
it's pretty impressive. So you got it. You were doing a lot of parodies. You recorded a tape and sent it into Dr. Demento around this time.
I did. I'm pretty sure my mom listened to it and then just buried it.
And told you she mailed it.
It's probably in a time capsule somewhere,
like a Christmas letter to Santa. Like, yeah, I'll mail that tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other songs. I know instead of Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson, I wrote Spaghetti and Meatballs.
Yep, and then there was you always had some very literal translations where it was like, instead of Falling Away From Here by Korn, you did a parody called Hauling Away From Here about shipping stuff. It's like, it was so on the nose where you're like, yeah, no, it's a song. It's a parody about shipping boxes, like hauling away from here instead of falling away from here.
See, there should be more hit singles about shipping things through UPS.
I remember my mom found a folded piece of paper, and it was lyrics to a parody of Nookie, but mine was called Dookie, which is way less dirty than the word nookie. But there was some atrocious wordplay. And she told me if I ever find something like this again, I'm ripping it up immediately. And she gave it back to me. Otherwise, she didn't really care what I did.
That was the line, though. She had to draw a line. Those lyrics were that rap rock was too tight. What do you got for number 9? Let's just do I couldn't come up with a 10th one. Well, I have another one, but this one's so stupid. True or false, the name of the event that was anticipated to affect computers everywhere starting on New Year's Eve was the year 2000 problem.
That is not what it was. You're saying... Wait, did you write that or you found that somewhere?
No, I wrote that terrible question.
It was the year 2000 problem? You're asking me if that's what we called it or we called it something else?
Okay. Can we scratch the record?
Oh, man. It's the year 2000 problem. Oh, I love it. I want to change all history to say that.
You know how many people don't even know about Y2K? I feel like we need to make a science fiction film revolving around Y2K.
I love it. That would be good.
There should be a sequel.
Yeah.
Y2K2.
Y2K squared. I love it. Here's your last question. Number 10. Let's see. You've gotten, I think, 8 or 9 out of 10 of these. So let's see. Number 10. I think you'll love it. This is to close it out. What's the name of the first playable level in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater from 1999?
Oh, man.
First level.
Now, this would be the warehouse, right?
It is the warehouse. Nice way to end it strong. You were obsessed with this game on 64.
I had a girlfriend, I think in 7th grade, and her brother had gotten one of those like PlayStation magazines that came with a demo disc.
Yeah.
Which in that era, that was gold. That was literal gold. Like,
oh, there was no other possible way you could play a game that wasn't out yet unless you had that demo that was only in certain magazines.
If one of us got one of those magazines, we would hang out all night and just play through the demos. And, you know, I remember like one night we spent hours trying to like just do the tutorial for Driver.
Yeah, it was so hard.
In the parking garage, and we just couldn't figure it out.
Can you imagine telling a kid now where you're like, yeah, you have to wait like to do anything. Like there's no waiting for any. You're just like, yeah, here's every movie, here's every game. Just pay a little premium and you can do whatever you want with them.
That takes away a little bit of the magic.
It really does. I mean, I like it. I like being to go like, oh, we just talked about Rat Race. I'll go watch that because it's just like you could find it somewhere. But yeah, it does take away the magic of what you used to have to do to go rent a Rat Race.
Like, yeah, no one's ever said that before. The magic of Rat Race. Yeah, just like being able to play the one level in Chicago in that Tony Hawk's demo, which I never returned.
Yeah.
Or
the magazine was like $10 because they used to put a demo out every couple months, I think.
Yeah. There was one time like me and you were at Blockbuster, and this is the kind of experience you would have then that you wouldn't have today. Is I was having a sleepover for like my 7th grade birthday party, so I was like 13, I think, and we were like looking for the most like ridiculous, like messed up horror movie we could find. Mm-hmm. And there was just some guy, like, just in the horror section, he saw me and you, like, 2 kids looking at horror movies, and he's just like, hey, you guys want to watch the goriest movie ever made?
Yeah,
and we just looked at each other, and we're just like, yes.
Yeah.
And he handed us Dead Alive.
I do remember watching that.
And that, to this day, that might be, like, on my style for my writing and directing, that might be the biggest influence.
Yeah.
And just from some random dude who was just like, oh, hey, these kids want to watch something messed up.
Sure. That guy's definitely in prison right now.
Oh, yeah, or dead, for sure.
All right. Well, you got the big number 10. Let's get on to your last question. We'll wrap this up.
You got to end this on a strong note here.
All right.
Which actor turned down the role of Neo in The Matrix to instead star in a big screen adaptation of a 1960s sci-fi western?
That 2000s problem? What was that the thing you said earlier?
Wait, what?
Instead of Y2K, was it that 2000s problem?
The 2000 problem.
That'd be a great sitcom, like that 70s show. That 2000s problem. And it's all about everything we've been talking about in this episode. Okay, so you said they turned down Neo to be in a sci-fi western?
Yeah. Now...
Oh, I know what it is. The sci-fi western's Wild Wild West, and the actor's Will Smith.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was also a hit single featured on his album, Willennium.
Willennium. Oh, it all comes together.
I just remember, like, him owning the 90s. Like, I remember going to school dances and hearing Men in Black and Wild Wild West and just, like, seeing all these movies.
That was big money for him. He's coming back. Have you seen him on social media? He's really blown up again.
Well, yeah, he had, Suicide Squad was one of the last big things he did.
Yeah, but he posts like genuine stuff every day of like him rapping or him on a 4-wheeler with his family. It's like very interesting, and he's got, I think, tens of millions of followers on Instagram.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. We closed out strong with some Will Smith references, some Millennium, and that is the end of 20 questions on 1999. Do you feel like we reminisced pretty well in this episode?
I think so. I think we might have to do some more reminiscing.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll have to dive back in. Maybe we just won't record it, or we do record it and we come back with that Keenan Ivory Wayne show 2018.
You think we can get him to do it?
Oh, we could probably get the real one. Yeah, I'm real good friends with Sean and Marlon Wayne, so we'll see what happens. Where can people find you online if they want to connect with you on some of your amazing movie log lines?
I'm an old man, and I have no social media except for Twitter, which I'm at Steve Hugh Nelson.
Yeah, follow Steve Hugh Nelson. You post log lines for just like movie pitches every day.
Yeah, and it's mostly horror movie stuff, writing and directing, and then occasionally cat pictures.
Good mix of everything that everybody loves on the internet. Good stuff, Nels. Good catching up with you. And let's see, 99, then we had 2009, then we got 19. We got to do something good for 2019.
No, I doubt it.
Yeah, probably not. Let's just watch Millennium on VHS. We'll finally open those Three Stooges that your dad didn't use. Awesome, dude. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, buds.
There it is. 20 questions for you on 1999 with my buddy Steve. Follow Steve Hugh Nelson on Twitter. Follow him ASAP. He's always doing some great movie pitches and just a lot of cool thoughts from one of my oldest buds. If you like cool stuff, if you like pop culture, you'll like Steve Nelson. Great catching up with him and reminiscing. If you have ideas for future episodes and topics that you want to hear on the show, drop me a line, ryanbudds@gmail.com, or hit me up on social media everywhere at ryanbudds or Trivia with Buds. We put up a bonus Father's Day episode, like we mentioned in the intro, so you can check that out if you want to do some quick dad trivia. And there's also some fun Father's Day bingo on dad-related movies and songs that you can download in the form of bingo cards, and then you just have to make the playlist that matches them. Or the screenshots that match for the movie bingo. And that's all explained how to do it on triviawithbuds.com/Father's Day. No apostrophe and all lowercase. triviawithbuds.com/Father's Day. Little fun stuff for me to you. You can play it on any day of the year. It's just fun trivia. Chattanooga, I'll be in ya Sunday, July 8th. It's at a place called the Southside Social doing a big Disney, Marvel, Star Wars event. Tickets still available, and they're $10 on my website. Go to triviawithbuds.com, click the banner at the top that says Chattanooga Show. That's about all I got for you on this quick edition of the Trivia with Buds podcast. I say quick in quotation marks because it was the longest one in recent memory, but hey, I had some good times talking with Nelson about the past. Hope you did too, and if there's anything we missed about 1999, let me know. I'd love to hear your omissions. That's it for me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend, and we'll see you next time for more Trivia with Buds. Cheers.